Man, does it feel good to finally have a week where there's 0 teams on bye. Week 7, we had 6 teams on bye. That's the biggest bye week of the year. Now we got 0, none of them. We're not digging deep into the barrels to start Amari DeMarcado. Week 8's time to lock in. Everyone's got their best ball players out on the field. No disadvantages from buys. We're still going to have some misses. You betcha. Last week we had a couple of misses. We missed big on the Packers offense. Aaron Jones, Christian Watson, but I finally hit on a Zach Moss sit. Am I like 1 for 6 on him? Maybe, but only good as your last at bat. And last time we got on base. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm pointing out. But if you're new to the channel, if you haven't been part of the Zach Moss journey, give us a stub. Make sure to get your fantasy team tweaked to the perfect amount in week 8. I'll help you do so. Gut roll the tape. Let's get into this. Let's talk about some running backs. Top of the board, the top dog, CMC, Eckler, Etienne. Breece Hall's getting up there. All right. He's my RB4 this week. He's officially on that top dog level, especially against the New York Giants. They're big brothers this week. Giants are giving up the 8th most fantasy points to running backs. They're giving up the 3rd most rushing yards. And the last time Breece Hall played, he was back in business. He cooked Denver. Does everyone cook Denver? Maybe, but Breece fully ramped up now. Dalvin Cook is 0 threat. He's a threat to himself because every time he plays, he looks even less valuable. Breece Hall, on the other hand, he's getting better every day. Nick predicts he'll be the 101 in next year's draft, and I don't know if I can make a case against him. Some guy that used to be on that Breece Hall top 5 level, Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard is a must start, all right? No matter what, especially if you're in PPR, you've been pretty happy with him. He's been putting up like 15 points a game. However, he's clearly, in my opinion, not worth the high-end RB1 that we thought he'd be. His efficiency is not there. His explosiveness is not there. The speed is not there. The juice isn't there. Still, must start. I can't bag him too much because I'm playing him in a league myself, but definitely closer to being a high-end RB2, low RB1 than that full ceiling, that next level we thought he was going to get to. And to be honest, the Rams got a pretty decent run defense, top 10 in the league. Just want a little Tony Pollard shade out there. Right behind Tony Pollard, we do got to talk about Jahmyr Gibbs. This is assuming David Montgomery is out. Okay, if Monty plays, he's an RB2. Gibbs at that point would probably only be worth like a flex spot, and that would be pushing. I would actually say he's still worth a flex spot because I doubt Monty gets 100% of the touches when he comes back, if he comes back this week. But if Monty's out again, Gibbs is a high-end RB2. Last week he had 10 targets, 9 catches. Might be a knockoff Alvin Kamara, but dude's getting the work. You know, underdog's got his line at like 100 total yards for the week, and that's not everything, but that's something. You know, when Vegas is predicting to have about 100 total yards, that's a good expectation of what you're going to get out of your running back in fantasy. I don't know if he's built for the workhorse role, but in the meantime, he's going to get it. Someone that has been in the workhorse role, Josh Jacobs, down in the late teens, mid-teens, getting all the volume in the world. However, he's averaging less than 3 yards a carry. He has 0 games with 80 rushing yards, only 2 touchdowns on the season. And the other Lions give up the 2nd fewest yards to running backs. Not great combos. Is Josh Jacobs possibly a buy low after this week because he's still going to be the volume king? Yes. As far as owning him as of right now, he's just going to be probably a low-end mid RB2. Given the matchup, he can only be as good as the Raiders are. I think this offense as a whole will be a little bit better once Jimmy G's back, but even then, there's clearly a limit. So let's give a little love to Kareem Hunt. Look, if Jerome Ford's out, Kareem Hunt could be a little bit of a touchdown reliant player. I'm getting a little negative again, but he's going to get the work. He is not as efficient. I don't know when the last time he was efficient, but 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games, and now his role might be getting even bigger. Kareem Hunt's worth an RB2 role. Went from unsigned to now top 20 running back in week 8. Never know what you're going to see, but it's happening. I know I just kind of had a reality check in that I need to be more optimistic about this, guys, but this is the last one I'll completely shit on. That's a lie. I'm shitting on everyone. I'm shitting on everyone, though, as I'm looking at my list right now. My new Zach Moss is Diontae Foreman. I don't like him. I cannot play him. In certain situations, you could throw him in your lineups, but not me, not here, not today. Everything went right for Diontae Foreman in week 7. Bears had a lead. Raiders didn't have their quarterback. Tyson Bagent didn't need to throw the ball. Roschon Johnson was out. Now all that's likely not going to happen again. The Chargers had the best run defense ever. No, I wouldn't even say it's good. But the Bears had the 5th worst run blocking grade in the NFL. Roschon Johnson will be back this week. And Foreman scored 3 touchdowns in week 7. The most he's ever scored in a season is 5. The dude just scored 60% of his season high in 1 game. Regression is coming. It won't even be close. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get a single touchdown in this game. The expectations are way too high. He's not the next Zach Moss, all right? Is this the last week you might be able to get a little bit of juice out of him because Roschon will still be possibly in limited snaps? The Chargers aren't that great, yes. But trust me, he is not a must start. if you have good backs, do not force him in your lineups. Dameon Pierce, this is my boy. All right. Watched him at the University of Florida. I've loved him. And I think he's a good running back, but it doesn't matter what I think. I even think it's a good matchup. Second most points the Carolina Panthers give up. Even Singletary out-snapped him last time they played. That's something. He out-touched him. He out-snapped him. I can't ignore that. As much as I want to be blind to it, as much as I want Dameon Pierce to be the RB1, I want him to get even the receiving work, and I might be getting greedy there. Not looking good for your former Florida Gator. I don't know if this trend will continue because it's not like Devin Singletary killed it, but definitely bringing up some concerns on my end. Brian Robinson, accidentally skipped over him. Look, he's in a couple of my lineups, but that's because I'm desperate. That's because I'm in a deep league. Unless you need to, Brian Robinson is a sit this week. Last week, kind of like the Dameon Pierce, Devin Singletary thing. Devin Singletary took snaps for Pierce. Chris Rodriguez took snaps for Brian Robinson. Robinson only had 8 carries last week, and Rodriguez had 7. Could it be a one-game fluke? Yes. Could it not be? Yes. And regardless of who's getting the work here, I don't think it matters when you're facing the Philadelphia Eagles, who have the #1 run defense in the NFL. They just shut down Raheem Mostert for the most part, and the Dolphins as a whole, the best offense in the NFL. Brian Robinson, who clearly doesn't have the workhorse role in Washington, I'm not betting on a guy facing the Eagles who's not even getting all the work. Last running backs we'll talk about. I don't know what to do with the Carolina backfield, all right? I would put Chuba over Miles Sanders. I don't want to have to start either of these guys. This feels like we're digging in the crates again. Don't hate it as a flex spot if you're desperate, you know, between these guys and Najee Harris, that's who's sitting on RB31 out there. I can't really. That's a coin toss between all three of these. Chuba's my favorite. I think if Miles is playing, he's been in full practice, I think he could be limited, just like Aaron Jones was when he came back for the Packers. He didn't get the full workhorse role right away. They have a competent back to ease Miles back in. They're both ugly, but I'll lean Chuba. If there's any running backs I didn't talk about that you want me to, or you want to see the list even deeper, you could find the full rankings on BDGE.co. That's where it has my weekly rankings every week, not just running backs, QB, tight end, defense, kicker if you want. Receivers we're getting into next. So on to the wide receivers. First guy I want to talk about on the receiver list is Davante Adams. Like Tony Pollard, I'm shit talking again. I'm back on my bullshit. Is he a must start still? Yes. However, Davante Adams has one 35-point game this season. He also has 4 games with less than 10 points. Don't love that. Can I do anything about it? No. Are you still going to start him no matter what? And should you? Yes. But clearly not the high-end wide receiver one like I wanted to be, just like Pollard, not the high-end RB1. I'm just acknowledging that it sucks out here. Puka, just so I can talk about him because I talk about him in every video. Let's just shine some light on him. Maybe I should put Puka over Devonta at this point because why not? I have nothing to say about Puka. I just want to shout him out. Christian Kirk, he's a guy that does need to be touched on. Pittsburgh gives it the 4th most fantasy points. Christian Kirk is top 20 in points per game this year. He's out targeting Ridley. He's out scoring Ridley. He deserves this reign. He deserves to be up in this spot. I don't think he's going to go out for like 1,400 yards this year, but I think he's going to do exactly what he did last year. Give you 80 catches, give you 1,100 yards, and give you plenty of wide receiver 2 points that you love and cash in on every single week. Right now, he's closer to the high-end wide receiver 2 than being outside a wide receiver 2. Thank you, Christian Kirk, for being one of the best value picks in the draft. Let's just jump to his teammate real quick. Calvin Ridley. Yeah, Calvin Ridley is like the worst version of Davante Adams. We hope Davante could have been a high-end wide receiver 1. Now he's a low-end wide receiver 1. We were hoping Ridley could be a high-end wide receiver 2. Now it's like, could he be a low-end wide receiver 2? Could we get even that? Definitely boomer bust, and a lot more bust recently, but I still think this Jaguars offense is clicking. Like I said earlier with Kirk, they face the Steelers. They give up the 4th most fantasy points to receivers. The matchup is there. Unfortunately, I don't have analysis out for you outside of is it his day or not, because that just seems what it is for the Jags. There is no correlation on when Ridley does good or doesn't. It's just if he wants to, apparently. Take that as it is. I still think he's worth a play. I think you're going to have to start him every single week. I hate playing the guessing game with guys that are boomer bust. You just got to stick through it and hope for the best. And I still think at the end of the season, he's still going to be a top 24 wide receiver. Just going to be some rough patches along the way. Meyers, 13th points per game. Wide receiver 13 on the season. Every single week, he keeps going up my rankings. And I think this is going to be the week he embarrasses me. Jakobi, I'm sorry I keep doubting you. You deserve all the love in the world. Jordan Addison, coming off of a 10-target game, coming off over 100 yards, coming off of 2 touchdowns. All that sustainable? Maybe not. Is he a must start though? 100%. Definitely worth a flex play. Definitely could play in your wide receiver 2 spot. Without Jay Jettas, this Vikings offense could be ramping up. 3-4 right now. You look at their schedule in the next 5 weeks. They got to play Atlanta and New Orleans, but Vikings could be making a push, and Jordan Addison could be benefiting from that, especially against Green Bay this week, who looked terrible versus the Broncos. One guy I love. Every single week, I feel like I am behind his back, hyping him up, and that's Zay Flowers. I'm a Zay Flowers believer. I'm bullish on him, but the experts have him as a top 15 wide receiver. Again, I love Zay, but the dude is yet to go over 15 fantasy points in a single game in half PPR. Not one game, 15 points. He's outside the top 30 in points per game. Again, I love the dude. I think the targets are there. I think he's only going to get better as we go on. And he's probably going to score a little bit more than the 1 touchdown he has through 7 games. But still, on the season, his limit's probably like 5. I'm a believer. Love him in Dynasty, but in redraft, and right now, what we're talking about week 8 today, put him as a high-end wide receiver 2 like the experts do. He hasn't proven it. I can't give him name value to just throw him up there just because he's only got 7 NFL starts. Devonta Smith, the guy that I do keep giving name value, not doing what we want. Luckily, he still sees at least 5 targets a game. 2 weeks ago, he had 11 targets, so the workload is there. He's having a couple uncharacteristic drops. I hate to just like throw out the excuse card, but a decent matchup. Washington gives up the 4th most points to wide receivers. This game last time they played was very high scoring. Could Smith benefit from that? Getting a little hypothetical, but not him. Calvin Ridley are in definitely different situations. I'm not comparing them based on situation, but I am comparing them in the sense that you just got to keep starting them, get through the rough patches, and enjoy the good ones when they do come around, because they will come around. I think T. Higgins is still worth the play. I think this Bengals team is going to get healthier. They have been getting healthier. They're coming off of a bye. They're coming against a Niners team who just lost, might not have their starting quarterback. And in the first 3 weeks, T. Higgins did have 8 targets a game. One of them, he had 12 targets. And then after that, Jahmyr Chase went beast mode and led the league in targets. Is he always going to be the wide receiver 2 in this offense? Yes. But back to what I just said. We know what type of player T. Higgins is. We know what he's done in the past. Most of his career, he's been pretty consistent when it comes to the final result. He usually puts up about 1,000 yards. He usually puts about 6, 7, 8 touchdowns. This year, with the slow start, that might not be likely, but that doesn't mean the rest of the way he can't be on his normal pace of numbers, expectations. Just got to start him and get through the rough patch. 2 guys that don't have the sexy name value, but they don't have many rough patches. I'm going to talk about both of them. Drake London and Courtland Sutton right there next to each other. Again, they have yet to have a super sexy game where it's like, damn, they got 2 touchdowns. Damn, they went for 30. That's probably not going to happen given this Broncos offense, even though I'm a slight Russ believer, and then I'm a Desmond Ridder disbeliever. However, the floor has been pretty stable. Sutton's 3rd in receiving touchdowns on the season, and he's averaging 10.9 points per game. Not a home run. That's a base hit every day of the week that you'll take. Not going to win you your week, but he's not going to lose it either, and sometimes he'll take that. And then for Drake London, if you erase, and it's hard to say to just throw this under the rug, but if you do get rid of his week 1 dud, he's also averaging right around 11 fantasy points per game. Sometimes you'll take those base hits. I certainly will. He's definitely worth the flex play. He's consistent, and you know you can count on him for at least something. Diontae Johnson, George Pickens, I love both of them to throw in your flex. I think Diontae is going to be the target leader on this team moving forward. I know Pickens out-targeted him in his first game back, but hence it was his first game back. Diontae, that's his game. He racks in work. Pickens, he's going to be the big playmaker. He's probably going to score more touchdowns than Diontae, who scored 0 last year. I don't even know if that's not even a crazy thing to say. I don't even know why I'm bringing that up. But as far as receptions, targets, work, that's Diontae's game. Pickens isn't going to take that much away from him. He's still going to be the receptions leader. I like both of them. I like Diontae slightly more, but they're both worth the play this week. And finally, 2 guys that I love. I got them in Dynasty, slight flex. Josh Downs scored over 12 fantasy points 3 games straight. And I love Anthony Richardson, but I think Gardner Minshew being the quarterback the rest of the season is a good thing for these Colts wide receivers, especially Josh Downs, apparently, coming off his biggest game of the last week versus the number 1 defense in the NFL. And if you watched last week's video, I don't want to say we called that he'd have that type of game, but we did call that Josh Downs was here to play. Just saying. We were here to expose the Browns defense. We said on the outside, I didn't love the Michael Pittman matchup, even though he did well on a broken play. I like Josh Downs in the slot against Cleveland, and he performed. Nola, tough defense, but the way they've been cooking, ride the hot hand. And then Rashee Rice leads the Chiefs wide receivers in targets. It seems like he's only getting stronger as the season goes on to establish a dominant wide receiver 1 role in Kansas City. Do I ever think he's going to be a clear alpha? No. But if he's the most likely alpha week in and week out, if you could have any share in the best offense in the NFL, and Rashee Rice is it, cash in on that and consider throwing him in your flex or wide receiver 3 spot, depending on what type of league you're in. Couple names that just missed the list: Amari Cooper, Tank Dell, D-Hop. I really like Tank Dell as a player, but I just got to see how he does coming back from his concussion. We have had such a small sample size of boom or bust. Amari Cooper, I can't invest in any Cleveland wide receiver really with PJ Walker at QB. I'm sorry. And then D-Hop, no thanks, man. He hasn't had a single 20-point game all season. He hasn't scored a touchdown this season. Now the rookie Will Levis is likely going to start, and even if he does, if it's Malik Willis and something changes and it's him, Malik hasn't thrown 100 passing yards in a single game in his NFL career. D-Hop is a must-sit. Ladies and gentlemen, those are your wide receivers again. If there's any wide receivers I skipped over, any more wide receivers you want to see that are into the depths, if you're in a deep league and you need to see who's my wide receiver 63 versus my wide receiver 64, so you know who to start, you could find them at bdge.co. Has quarterbacks, has tight ends, has defenses, has kickers. You'll know exactly where Younghoe Koo ranks in my lineups. Before I go, if you're new to the channel, give us a like, give us a sub, give us some love, give us a works. If you've been here, give us a comment, rate the new dinosaur of the week. Nick keeps bringing in presents. He's a very giving guy. Not sure why Gut or Tony never flex their dinosaurs in the trivia videos, but whatever. As always, and of course, ladies and gentlemen, thank you and good night.